Massey Ferguson. So many of its machines are working hard around the globe, even as we speak. The impact this tractor manufacturer had on farming innovation cannot be underestimated, with many of its early model tractors still working a shift today. In this video, I just want to take a look at the early production tractors that came from the Massey Harris and Harry Ferguson merger. Although the FE35 was not sold as a Massey Ferguson, it still had a huge impact on the very first Massey Ferguson tractor. Let's take a look at these very iconic machines. The successor to the well-known Ferguson TE20, the Ferguson FE35 came along in late 1956, built in Coventry, England. The Ferguson FE35 was in production as the Ferguson and Massey Harris companies merged into Massey Ferguson. The tractor began production in gray and gold paint with Ferguson badging. The paint changed to red and gray in late 1957, but the Ferguson decals remained. At some point between 1958 and 1960, the Ferguson name disappeared in favor of Massey Ferguson. Developed by Harry Ferguson, an Irish inventor, the FE35 was introduced in 1956 as a successor to the Ferguson TE20. With its innovative hydraulic system that allowed attachments to be raised and lowered with precision, it marked a technological leap forward. The FE35 was powered by a 34 horsepower standard 23C diesel four-cylinder engine, or the standard gasoline four-cylinder. But what made it stand out was its versatility and reliability. Designed for both small and large-scale operations, its advanced features, such as the three-point hitch, allowed it to become a trusted tool for farmers around the world. In its early years, the tractor became known as the Fergie, a beloved companion for farmers, earning a place in fields across the globe. The FE35's success laid the foundation for future tractors, solidifying Ferguson's place in the agricultural revolution. The Ferguson FE35, where innovation met the soil and history was made. The Massey Ferguson 35, a big step forward for the Massey Ferguson company. Up until 1960, the MF35 was pretty much mechanically the same as the FE35. The evolution was a gradual process from 1957 to 1960 as colors and decals changed. In 1959, the 35 would get a brand new Perkins engine and then would officially launch into full production in 1960. Introduced in 1960, the Massey Ferguson 35 was powered by the Perkins A3152 2.5-liter three-cylinder diesel. It had a displacement of 152.7 cubic inch and could produce 37 horsepower. In 1962, we saw the introduction of the new and improved MF35. It was the Massey Ferguson 35X, fitted with the same Perkins engine, but now with an increased engine RPM. Now the 35X could produce 44 horsepower. Not only did the 35X offer a few more ponies, it also came with an option of having differential lock, and the biggest new feature was multi-power. Now with the new multi-power transmission, you could go from the standard 6-gear configuration to the new 12-speed partial power shift. The Massey Ferguson 35 started production in 1956, still with the old standard 23C engine, and would eventually evolve into the 35X. From all of the production years the 35 was built, around 388,000 units were produced. The Massey Ferguson 35 was a very popular tractor in its time, and still lives on today, tackling light tasks and sitting in collections. The Massey Ferguson 65 produced from 1958 to 1964. Sold alongside the Massey Ferguson 35, the bigger 65 began life as the Massey Ferguson 65 Mark I, using most of the same components as the 35, such as the same 6-speed gearbox, but with higher ratios and the same hydraulic system. In 1960, the Massey Ferguson 65 Mark II would release with a brand new Perkins engine. Most of the optional features on the Mark I would come as standard on the Mark II, such as differential lock and a full lighting system. The 65 Mark II would also feature multi-power. Introduced in 1958, the Massey Ferguson 65 Mark I was powered by the Perkins A4192 3.1-liter four-cylinder diesel, which had a displacement of 192 cubic inch and could produce 46 horsepower at the PTO. The Massey Ferguson 65 Mark II was powered by the Perkins A4203 3.3-liter four-cylinder diesel, which had a displacement of 203.5 cubic inch and could produce 54 horsepower at the PTO. There was also a gasoline version available, but only on the models sold in the United States. It was the Continental 2.9-liter four-cylinder gas. Over its very successful production run, the Massey Ferguson 65 line would have a total of around 11,000 units built. In 1964, it would be discontinued and gave way to the Massey Ferguson 100 series.